Welcome to A Shelter in a Time of Storm. My name is Roger Comstock. I'm the preacher for the Morrison Church of Christ in Morrison, Tennessee. Our program is designed to try to help people, just as the title says, to try to help people through the storms of life. In this last series of programs that we've been doing, we've had a special guest, Brother Ricky Hagan. Brother Ricky is a colonel in the U.S. Army. He is transitioning from the regular full-time Army to reserve service. He has given 38 years of his life to service of our nation through the reserves and through active regular Army, and we're just glad to have him here with us. And Ricky, thank you again for being here and for your service to our nation. What we've been doing, if you haven't been able to see the previous programs, Brother Ricky acknowledges very openly that he struggles with post-traumatic stress disorder and traumatic brain injury. And so he's been talking about how that has affected his life, and not only that, but how those problems have affected the lives of the people around him, and how he has dealt with that and the help that he has sought to take care of those. So that's our intent, to remind people who struggle with these things that they can get help, and for the rest of us who see people who are needing help to be more patient, more long-suffering, more compassionate toward them, to help them in these struggles that they face. So, Brother Ricky, it's hard to, we've covered a lot of ground, and so I want to, and I realize that some of our viewers they'll have difficulty following where we are unless they've seen the previous programs. But in the previous program, we talked about hiding from the problems and substance abuse, and again, I appreciate your openness in talking about those things in your life and how you dealt with that as a Christian. So the alternative, the alternative to the substance abuse would be, is it safe to assume, would be to that rage to be spewed out on anyone, anywhere?
I wouldn't say just going around like you're not. It's more that you're volatile. Okay. Your weight. It's something's gonna set you off.
Something has to light the fuse.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, with all those struggles and the feeling that you didn't fit in anymore, that home wasn't home anymore, you had expressed that you were more comfortable in the theater of battle than you were at home. The drug abuse and so forth. Why didn't you and I certainly don't want to make light of this. So many of our soldiers that come home, our veterans, take their own lives. So what kept you going? Why didn't you just give up when everything seemed to be so terrible? Why didn't you just give up?
It crossed my mind many times. Not fitting in, trying to put that square peg in a round circle, and the suicide two times that I really come close, and I've shooting myself in the head was what I thought, and the first thing that crossed my mind was God ain't gonna be happy if I do this. And I know without a doubt I'll never make it to heaven. And the second one was what this would do to my girls, my family.
Yes.
And I think a lot of the suicides, and by no means I'm a specialist or whatever. Everything that I've told you during these series, I don't have a doctor's degree in any of that. I've told you everything from the heart. The way I've felt and the way I've had to deal with things.
Right.
And as far as anomalies, I don't think it would be that much difference between soldier to soldier, but circumstances would vary. I.e., your wife left you, your husband left you, kind of things like that would be devastating, and where you're already on the borderline anyway. But I just thought of my what kind of burden that would have left on my kids.
Right.
And that's for a lifetime.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my granddaughters are my world, and to think about, we tried to pull April Fool's joke on my little granddaughter, and Bernie told her that he can't come to your game. He broke his leg and he won't be here. And she said, no, he didn't. He's too tough. and then to think of that, doing that, and what that would do. I mean, that's a lifetime thing with scars, and
yes.
And so, but Roger, every one of them can't rationalize that out, and it's you take the combination of the rage, the loneliness. I don't fit in. Nobody don't understand me. I can't. There's nowhere I can go to talk to, and it just starts growing like a snowball, ugly black snowball, and then all of a sudden, for whatever reason, they may be high, they may not, but it's like, most of these people, they don't sit and go back and forth. I am going to, I'm not, I'm going to.
Yeah.
Really, usually it's just poof.
Yeah, very spur of the moment. Yeah. So that soldier or any person who's dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder, when they're at that point that they feel like they have no choice and they take their own lives, is there anything you could say to them? Is there anything that feeling of helplessness, what would you say to that person?
I don't really understand when you say when they took their life.
No, the individual who's
thinking about it.
Yeah, the individual who maybe is watching this program and they see themselves as at a dead end, that there is no solution to what they face in their life, whether from the post-traumatic stress and the guilt of maybe what they've done to other people in the process, and all of that, and they see no alternative except to take their own life. What would you, if that person is watching right now, what would you say to them?
Well, the mere fact that you're getting to breathe in and breathe out, then there's hope.
Yeah.
If God wanted to snatch that away from you right now, just like He could me and you at this second,
sure.
One of the things that we take so much for granted in life, and excluding war and PTSD and TBI, we take so much for granted. But the mere fact that He lets you breathe in and breathe out, there's hope, and there's always hope. My advice to them is, get out of that situation. If it ain't working for you, you got to get out of that situation.
Right.
There's the drugs, the alcohol. It's a no-win situation. If your relationship, if you see it day in, day out deteriorating, you're not fixing it amongst yourself. Go get help. The biggest thing you're going to run into with soldiers is pride. I mean, it's instilled in us, the war ethos, the command structure, the way we train, the discipline's so raw and at a high level. It's sad that it comes to that, to where they don't reach out. But pride, and it talks about it in the Bible.
Yeah.
Pride is one of the worst things a man has to deal with.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's a lot of it, that the guilt, the shame, the embarrassment, and I can't rise above that. But with Christ, all things is possible. But it comes back to we talked about earlier, if they're not in the church, I mean their struggle is tenfold.
Yes. Well, and so many times we, in that pride, I can help but think about King David, and here he is, maybe as he served as the king of Israel, maybe the most powerful man on the face of the earth. Israel was a powerful nation, yep. And maybe the strongest during that time, and for a while he was able to hide his sin. But you read Psalm 51 about how he exposed him when Nathan confronted him about his sin.
Right.
And
you.
And that's all of us.
Yes. Well, it's all of us, but it's funny how so many wear that mask.
Yes. Yeah.
You want to talk about my mask? Let's talk about the real mask.
Yeah.
They wear that mask. It's like, well, now my sin, the thing that I'm adultery, I'm fornication or whatever, that's not really. Look, let's talk about that guy right there, man. He got some problems.
Yeah.
Let's really, but go back to second there. You remember the gentleman you took me to, the World War II veteran?
Yes, sir.
You can say his name. I wasn't going to for classification.
That's okay. Yeah.
My intel background. I wasn't going to expose him. But going in there, you said he never talks about it. He probably won't talk to you, whatever. But you seen what happened.
Yeah.
It was immediate.
Right.
He opened up to another soldier.
Right.
And we had a huge. He was a prisoner of war, dropped behind enemy lines, and he started telling me all this stuff.
Right.
And did you see what happened there as far as that brothers in arms in the military? It's a family above no other. If the church.
Oh.
If the church was even a resemblance of how we took care of one another,
right.
we don't go around throwing you under the bus all the time.
Right.
Hey, do you hear about Roger?
Right.
Really? Look here, time out. Roger's got a problem. He done something. He stumbled. He sure don't need you echoing it all over the.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wait a minute.
Exactly right.
Wait a minute. You're a brother and sister in Christ.
Yeah.
Okay. That's where I have struggles.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting that you mentioned that. When we did some programs with some veterans back some time back, and before we recorded those programs, I gathered those men, and we had a representative from every war, from WW2 on to the present war in Afghanistan. Those men had never met each other before that day that we met for lunch before we went to the studio, and you, after about 30 seconds, you would never have known that those men had not known each other until that minute. Mm-hmm. It was, and I didn't serve in the military, and it was very eye-opening to me, the bond that those men had instantaneously, and I think you make a good point. If
there's no doubt in my mind, the brother we're talking about that goes to your church, there's no doubt in my mind, and he was 92,
I think, yes. Mm-hmm.
There's no doubt in my mind if something was happening to me in the road in front of his house, he or whatever situation, that he would come to me.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
There's no, and I could say that for 95% of the soldiers, they would, it'd be the same.
Well, and he of those men that we gathered together for those programs, he was the oldest, but even then there was an automatic respect because of those men. Part of what was instilled in them in their training and so forth, but it wasn't because he said, I'm the oldest one here, you all pay attention. It wasn't that at all.
Did you see what he done to me?
Well, yeah, I did, and I noticed right away.
What'd he say?
He called you sir?
Sir.
And
he's 95 years old, and he's my elder, but the mere fact that he recognized that I was a full-bird colonel, and he's been out of any kind of military for 50 plus years, he said, how you doing, sir?
Yeah.
And he reached out and done all disciplinary protocol.
Yeah. And it just that bond, and you make a really strong point about that camaraderie that is not lived in our day-to-day Christian lives.
Oh no, absolutely.
I think you make a very good point.
And it's really sad.
It is, and it goes back to this thing as you were saying about we've talked about getting real. So I guess maybe the next step in this discussion, what could someone have done to help you? What could some brother in Christ, what could some neighbor, What could some family member, what could some fellow soldier, what could have been done to help you?
I think just listening, just true, genuine sincerity, compassion, honesty. We're very good at what we do. We're trained in so many different variations of your mind, body, and the things that your senses. We don't miss much. I don't miss much. And I'm telling you this for a reason. My mind is. It's like it's scanning all the time. And I read an article the other day, and this it was real good, and I wish I'd brought it to you. But the wife was talking about how he's doing better. He don't look for the corner seat where you can back up to the restaurant, but she called him a Superman scanner. But she said he still does that. And I mean, every place I go. From outside to inside, I scan the trees, I scan the roof, I scan everything, because you're trying to see where that threat assessment is.
Right.
And if it's okay, it's okay. I can let my guard down. But if there's that threat assessment, it's there in the back of your mind, and just the family, friends, just try to understand. This ain't a Hollywood movie.
Yeah.
And they want to compare it to what Hollywood's drummed up, and I mentioned American Sniper a couple times, and not out. I'm not saying this out of no disrespect whatsoever, but they made a movie out of how many kills that he had, the most kills.
Right.
But look what that got him.
Yeah.
I mean, him going out and trying to help another soldier.
Right.
Struggling with PTSD, TBI, whatever it was, and what it got him was killed.
Yeah.
So I mean, nothing's going to be the same. Can it be better? Possibly, absolutely, possibly.
Yeah.
But when you send a guy off to war, even if the guy never fired one shot, the mere fact that you took him out of his home, his comfort zone, away from his family, and he has to endure that, and all the elements that go with it, he'll never, ever be the same.
Yeah.
So, when he comes back and you say, I think the relationship that you and I established in 2 degrees off the equator in Guyana was, there was nothing to hide. Yeah. Is what it is.
Yeah.
And both of us laid our heart and soul out there. I didn't know you from Adam. And if you would have played me, I would have seen right through you. And the same goes. If same was that same story I told you in Guyana, I could tell you right here, word for word. See, it's like the fish story. I caught the fish. How big was this big? Next time you tell a story, it's this big. Yeah. When you tell a lie, you have to remember that lie for the rest of your life. And when you asked about people helping you, when you say, I'll be there for you, no matter what, I love you, I'm going to be here right by your side, I'm going to help you, I'm going to.
Better do it.
Well, you can see through that.
Yeah.
You can see through that, and people, and it comes back to that selfish motivation of you think are you doing this for what? What reason? I mean, she needs you, and they need you bad.
Yeah. So what the family, maybe the wife or children or mother or father, when their child, husband, whatever the relationship, when they come home from, particularly as the battlefront as we've dealt with now for the last few years, what should that family automatically think that there's going to be a problem? Should they just assume that their loved one coming back is going to have PTSD?
They should anticipate that my Joe, John, Jane is not going to be the same.
And that's important for us to see.
And now you can skin that cat 2 or 3 different ways. You know, you can take it at face value. My life's never going to see. We're talking about them coming back,
right?
But all of a sudden, you or Charlotte's saying my life's never going to be the same. You see how it switched all of a sudden?
Yeah.
We ain't talking about you and your life. We're talking about their life.
Yeah.
So how do I adapt, adjust, overcome my relationship with them?
Right.
If I love them, if that's my father's son, whatever, if I love them, how do I adapt, adjust, overcome to help them?
Right.
Not to try and change them back to what they were.
Right.
That's never going to happen.
Yeah.
So, you know, once you realize that, now, if you're going to skin the cat the hard way, you know, you're probably going to be in for an uphill battle. That I'm going to put timeline on it, Roger.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you, and this happens all the time.
It does.
I'm going to give you 6 months, and that book that they give us, you know, PT coming back, that book says, you know,
Yep.
the book, like commentaries, are written by another man.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
his opinion. So I'm gonna give you 6 months. Well, okay, 6 months up. Let's go out to dinner. Let's go do this and let's do like we used to do.
Yeah.
Well, he ain't coming along.
Yeah.
Now the problem is his. I give you my 6 months.
Yeah.
And now, what's your problem, Joe?
And again, it's amazing how similar in the teaching that I've done on grieving and so forth, and trying to help people who are who are supposed to be the helpers, and comments like, "Well, you ought to be over it by now."
Oh, dude, the helpers sometimes are the worst enemies.
Yeah.
That was in my case.
Unintentionally.
Like I told you. Well,
I mean,
I think the most of them are unintentionally.
Yeah.
But then again, as you see a relationship going on, and it's the same, you know, then you start thinking, you know, this never was about helping me. It's been all about you to start with.
Yeah.
But let's skin the cat the other way. When he comes back and you say, you know, I know you don't have to say it to him. You can't say it to him or her, whatever. But in your mind, that I say, you know, I know our relationship's probably never going to be the same, and I know he's been through probably some horrendous stuff, seen it, dealt with it. He may even have he may have some awful stuff. He may have shot a child, whatever the case may be, the worst case scenario. But at that moment, they can pick it up and say, you know, as of today, when he or she comes back home, we're going to start anew. Yeah. And I'm going to look at this like this is my new man, this is my new wife coming home, and whatever it takes, we're going to do it together.
Amen.
And we're going to build this relationship. And you know what? That relationship could be 10 times better than the one before you left.
Well, yeah.
Because now we appreciate.
Right. And the battles that you overcome
didn't matter.
Make you stronger, though.
Yeah, but also, I thought this is what you're going to say. You realize how minute, how stupid this little petty stuff is.
Yeah. When
you took him or her away, and guess what? They come back alive.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big gift.
Yeah.
And some don't get the gift.
Yeah, you're right. And sad but true. Well, we're out of time again for this program. It seems like the time flies too quickly.
I think it's because you talk too much.
Might be. But as we close this program, let me again encourage those of you who may be watching who struggle with PTSD or traumatic brain injury that you seek out the help that's available. And I really want to place to close this program, I really want to place the emphasis, as we've talked about these last couple of minutes, about putting the burden on those of us who maybe are the ones at home. In these programs, we've talked several times in this series about selfishness and so forth. And as we've also talked about in the program that as the Lord said, the greatest thing we can do is give our life for someone else. As Christians, we shouldn't have to preach about we shouldn't have to preach about giving and selflessness, but sadly we do, because we as humans we tend to worship that God I. So I hope if you're watching these programs that you'll reach out to those who need help, and be honest and genuine and sincere in a willingness to help, and be there for that individual, and don't disappoint them. Don't let them down. For those of you who maybe are Christians and you're struggling with some sin in your life, we've talked in these programs a lot about hiding from the truth and hiding from reality. Unless you're willing to really get real with your life and your relationship with God, you're not going to grow spiritually. You're not going to enjoy those promises that God has made to those who will be faithful. So we've got to overcome whatever the issues are in our lives, whether it's the post-traumatic stress disorder, or I think in this program or maybe the previous program, Ricky had mentioned that whether it's gossip or whatever the problem is, we've got to get real and deal with self. I can't fix you. You can't fix me. But we have to be willing to look into that mirror, as we've said, and be willing to be real with ourselves and be what God expects us to be. And that can only come when we'll be downright, nakedly honest with ourselves. If you're outside of Jesus Christ, we're here to help you, and if you have desire to study God's Word, to learn what you need to do in your life, we're here to help you with that, and we'd be happy to sit down and study God's Word with you. If you may live in a different town than I am, but we'll find you the help to help you in your spiritual life. If you're a veteran and you need help with a post-traumatic stress disorder, and you're watching this program, again, you contact us and we'll help you find the help. You may not be here in our town, so we'll do our very best to help you find whatever help is necessary. But we all have to be resolved to understand that God is truth, and that He deals in truth. And a little different than you and I, or maybe vastly different than you and I. God is absolutely perfect in His truth. God is absolutely 100% perfectly real. Perfectly, absolutely real. And unless we're willing to do that and come to that honesty, we'll never be what we need to be pleasing and acceptable to God. We can make excuses. There are bunches of them. We can make all kinds of excuses. But we just have to get right with God and get real with ourselves. If you'd like Ricky to come and speak to you and your congregation, give us a call.